Team, happening. Rab here again. This time we're going to be doing vocals. So I've got this vocal here.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true.
Sounds alright. Doesn't sound the best, but we're going to clean it up. We're going to get it sounding good. And the very first thing that I put on is EQ. And I will look for shite down here basically that we don't need, that will get in the way of the kick and bass, and I will take it away. Don't take too much away, don't make your vocal sound thin, but I usually find my vocals sit roughly about 130.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's to treat me like a friend.
Right, that'll do. And then the next thing I do is I look for that horrible frequency that sounds kind of like a telephone. I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's usually about 700 roughly about there. So if you're wearing earbuds or earphones, this might get a bit piercing, so just turn it down a wee bit.
All the things you have to do.
There's no very
All
nice.
the things you have to do.
Oh, there it's there, look.
All
7.
the things you have to do.
See that? Get that away. We don't want that.
All the things you have to do to prove.
See that? That is horrendous.
And just see, then I give my love to you. All the things you have to do.
It sounds really subtle, but see when we start to compress it, I'll turn this on and off, and then we'll hear it. You'll be like, shit, that does need that. Trust me. And then I'll put a wee airband in, like maybe about 12 to 15k.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true. All the things you have to do.
Add a wee bit of silk to the top of the vocal, but what that can do is that can bring the S's and T's up harsh. So what we want to do is we want to use a dynamic EQ, roughly about 9k, to bring the S's and the T's down.
All the things you have to do.
Right, so to do, that's what we're looking for.
Things you have to, things you have, things you have to, things you have to do.
So we'll put the gain to 0, and then we'll bring the dynamic. If you grab here with your mouse and bring this down.
Things you have to do to prove your love is true. Things you have to do.
Let's turn this EQ off and on, see how it sounds.
Things you have to do. Things you have to do. Things you have to do.
We will A-B this once we've compressed it, just to show you the power of this, and this. So we'll add a Pro C2, we'll put it to vocal, and what I like to do is, same thing I do on most channels, I'll put a scope on so that I can actually see what I'm doing as well as hear it.
Things you have to do to prove your love is true.
And with compression, what we are basically wanting to do
Things you have
is,
to do
you see
to prove your love is true.
these loud peaks? We want to bring them down and level them off with the rest of the vocal so that we've got a consistent sound in our vocal. I'm going to put the attack all the way fast for the moment.
Things you have to do to prove your love is true.
And then I'm going to start bringing the threshold down till we start to get a consistent sound. Bring the release down to maybe about 40. I usually find about 9 o'clock's quite nice.
Things you have to do to prove your love is true.
Maybe bring the attack back a wee bit because it's sounding kind of crushed.
Things you have to do to prove your love is true. Things you have to do to prove your love is true. Things you have to do to prove your love is true.
That's not too bad. Let's see what it looks like and sounds like with the compressor off and then on. Right, off.
Things you have to do to prove your love is true.
Right, so we can see those big peaks and valleys.
Things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's a
Consistency. There we go. We've achieved that. And now I'm going to turn this EQ off and on while it's playing, and you'll hear that horrible frequency. Sometimes I compress it before I find this disgusting frequency.
things you have to do to prove your love is true.
You hear it? It's like it's horrible. This is it off.
Things you have to do to prove your love is
This is it on.
things you have to do to prove your love is true.
Right, I'll leave these and I'll just turn this band on and off. Right, off.
Things you have to do. Things you have to do to prove your love is
You can really hear it on that to prove.
to prove.
But if I boost this, watch your ears.
To prove your love is true.
That's what you're listening for.
To prove your love is true.
That is exactly what you're listening
To
for.
prove your love is true. It's to treat me like a fantasy.
Really brings some clarity to the vocal. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add an effect track. And what an effect track does is it basically allows us to process in parallel. So if I create a chain and I call it dry, this will just be like the unaffected signal.
All the things you have to do.
Then I'm going to give it a bit of width with vintage verb. I've got a preset here. You can, not that one, this one. Feel free to copy the settings. What it basically does, I'll solo this.
All the things you have.
Doesn't sound great, but see when you lay this under your vocal subtly, just gives it a wee bit of bigness.
All the things you have to do to prove.
Turn it off.
All the things you have to do
On.
to prove your love is true. It's to treat me like a fantasy.
Put it to -12, and I have put this before the compressor, and that is because I'm going to put reverb in here also, and I want the compressor to affect the reverb. I want the compressor to be bringing the reverb up in between the vocal phrases, and I've got this preset here. I've called it Rabbi Vox Plate, and feel free to copy the settings. I'll rename this reverb, and then it sounds like this. Soloed. Sounds like this with a vocal.
All the things you have to do.
Obviously it is way too loud. Let's try -15.
All the things you have to do.
Maybe put that to 1.5 settings.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true.
Still seems a little bit loud. -17.5.
All the things you have to do.
Right, so when I find the reverb is annoying me, what I'll do is I'll add a glue compressor and I will sidechain the reverb to the vocal. So if I add a glue compressor, click this little triangle here, I'll open up the sidechain panel, I'll activate the sidechain, and I'll put audio input from Vox, because this is what Vox. And then in here, I will go and I will choose audio effect track dry post the effects. So that means that this compressor is reacting to the dry signal that has no reverb on it. I'll bring the attack right down, I'll bring the release right down, and then I'll play with the threshold till I get it sounding nice. Because what I'm wanting here is I'm wanting the reverb to duck just a little bit to let the vocal shine through clearly, but I'm not wanting to duck it too much so that you've got this sucking effect when the vocal stops playing, loads of reverb comes in and it sounds terrible.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true.
See, like this, the vocal
All
sound,
the
nah,
things you have to do.
that sounds bad.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's to treat me like a fantasy, then I give my love to you. What I want.
That's not too bad about there. Then, we can add some delay. I like H delay from Waves. Rename this to delay. We will go quarter note on this, I think. See this? This bit just here. This just adds hiss. Turn that off. We don't want that. Just turn it off. These 1, 2, 3 and 4, these are just flavours of hiss. But I don't like it. I don't like that shit.
All the things you have to.
Let's turn it down. Oops, minus 15 we'll try.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's a treat.
And then you see this glue compressor? I'll copy this onto the delay, and that'll duck the delay when the vocal's playing, then it'll let it come up when the vocal stops playing.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's to treat me like a friend.
I'll play with the feedback.
All the
You don't want it to ring out too much. You just want it to kind of fill the space.
all the things you have to do.
Maybe take it down to minus 17.5.
All the things you have to do to prove.
And then I like to EQ my reverb and my delay. So let's put an EQ on the delay. We'll get rid of the reverb for the moment. Take some lows. I've put this on the chain before the delay.
All the things you have to do to prove your love.
I'll make a high band and a low band.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's to treat me like a fantasy, then I give my love to you. What I want from you is time that will last me all my life. 'Cause I know you are.
Still a bit loud, you know. Minus
All
25.
the things you have to do to
Nah,
prove.
minus 20
all
maybe.
the things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's a treat.
That's not too bad. And then I will copy that reverb. No, sorry, I'll copy that EQ onto the reverb. Put it before the reverb.
All things you have to do to prove your love.
I'll adjust this to taste.
All the things you have to do to prove.
I still think that reverb's a wee bit loud. We'll go minus 22.5. Sorry, the delay's a bit loud.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's to treat me like a fantasy, then I give my love to you. What I want from you is.
I had the formants up there, I could hear it. See if you're ever stretching and Ableton, this formants sounds terrible on vocals. Bring that down.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's to treat me like a fantasy, then I give my love to you. What I want from you is time.
And then, what I'll add is a clipper, just for a wee bit of saturation. Now, when I'm clipping vocals, I'm not actually clipping them. I'm just using the saturation in this because I love the way the saturation in this clipper sounds. I'm not even touching the slope. I'm just pushing a bit.
All the things you have to.
Let me turn this down a bit.
Things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's to treat me like a fantasy, then I give my love to you.
Let's AB. What we'll do is, we'll duplicate this down. We'll call this dry. And we'll call this wet. We'll take all the plugins from the dry and we'll balance again.
Things you have to do to prove your love is true. It's to treat me like a fantasy. All the things you have to do to prove your love is true.
This is wet.
All the things you have to do to prove your love is true.
That's pretty much how I do vocals. Anyway, have fun. I'm out.